Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Oxnard Live. I'm your host, Daniel Chavez Jr. We all know that there are multiple positions throughout the cities, communities, businesses where they kind of are behind the scene positions that you may not know a lot about. Speaking with us tonight is someone who has a very interesting background that the more you dig, the more information you find out, and you are impressed even more. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Community Affairs Manager of Oxnard Police Department, Paul Carganilla.
Hello, Daniel. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
So good. Thank you so much. I hope the weather's all right where you are. You're obviously in Oxnard. I took the day off, so I'm at home. We had yesterday off for the holiday, and then tomorrow the city's closed. So I just took a day to make a nice little stretch and just hanging at home with the kids and nice and warm out here
Yeah,
in my
well, I
part.
appreciate you taking some time, because I know family time is always very important. So
Absolutely.
thank you for taking this opportunity for a few minutes to chat with me and for us to get to know a little bit more about you.
My pleasure. Like I said, when you first reached out, I was like, I'm surprised anybody wants to hear from me, but okay.
And I
Sure.
reassured you and I reassured our viewers that this was not an April Fool's joke. This is a legit interview. It is being streamed, so um, there's proof.
No, I know. You got to keep your guard up. You never know, especially these days in the virtual world, what's real and what's not, what's fake, and what you can trust. But here we are, and this is a thing, and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you again. So the community affairs manager, it is typically a position that is not very well known, the people that are behind it. We were first introduced to it back when Miguel Lopez ran for city council, for mayor. That kind of shot a little spotlight. Then I can't remember her name. Please remind me the
Melissa came after
Melissa.
Miguel. Hmm.
Oh my God, how can I forget about that? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Melissa, if you're watching, I apologize. And then you came in afterwards. So it was it's an interesting position. Tell us a little bit about that position. What are the duties as a community affairs manager?
Yeah, so it has different names in any department, any organization, really. A lot of police departments they call it the PIO, the Public Information Officer. But I think that here in Oxnard, they the position was different and in such that they wanted to encompass more things with the duties of their community affairs manager. So obviously, anything my biggest thing is the social media, keeping everybody involved on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and having putting out any information that our city needs to know about from the voice of the police department. And also, of course, in the background, all of the general things that any public information officer needs to do. And that's as far as, sharing press releases. And, some departments have these positions where all the public information officer does is write and release press releases. And Oxnard's different in that a lot of the sergeants and commanders will write the press releases and then it'll just kind of filter through me out. So there's just so many. One thing I love so many things about our department, but one of the things that I really appreciate is that there are so many different voices within our department that all get to have their own spotlight and their own microphone, and so it's just helping them be heard. A big part of what they do is they give the freedom to whoever's in this position to do whatever, do their job and do their duties in a way that fits their skill set best. So depending on who is in the office, who is currently sitting in the position, maybe we'll do different things. Like for me, I have a background in entertainment and film production. So when I came into the office, former Chief Whitney really wanted to set me free as far as making videos and producing any sort of multimedia content that we could share on social media for people to see. But I'm totally dancing around your question. So social media, press releases, getting information out. If there's something going on that the press is calling about and needs to know updates, they'll call me. And also, I'm in charge of organizing all of the community events, like anything from coffee with a cop at Starbucks to our signature events that we do at the station, like the car show or uh, the Spooktacular at Halloween or Santa at the Station at Christmas time. That all kind of falls under my umbrella. And hopefully this year we'll be able to do a junior police academy over the summer with kids. And so just anything community related. I'm kind of a we have an amazing neighborhood policing team that is assigned to different neighborhoods throughout Oxnard as their like assigned officers. But as far as like a liaison between the community and the police department in a civilian position, that's pretty much what I do.
Now, you're a local boy. You are from Ventura County, Simi Valley to be exact. And you alluded to it, your background. And anybody that Google searches you, so many websites and pages will pop up and it just talks about everything that you have accomplished. You worked for Disney, you're an actor, tell us how did you even get started? What motivated you to go into that type of profession with the acting, the
I was very into performance in high school. I went to Royal High School in Simi Valley, and I was so just involved in choir and theater and band leadership that I didn't have my sights set on the future. I didn't really think about what I wanted to do. So I ended up just like applying to a couple of schools and didn't get in. So I went to Moore Park College. And while I was there, I was playing in the jazz band. And I played trumpet in the jazz band, and I got kind of looped into playing in the orchestra for they were doing a production of Guys and Dolls. And while I was playing in the band for that show, I got to know a lot of the cast members of the show, and I just fell in love with like that community, the performing community. And then I started to take acting classes, and so it was like my second year of college, and I decided, wow, like I had no plans for my life, but I really love this performing thing, and I love being on stage. So that's what I'm going to follow. So I applied to UCLA's theater program, and I got in. So after a couple of years at Moore Park, I transferred to UCLA, and then I ended up just leaving school to try and audition for movies and TV and commercials, and I did that whole rat race for a couple of years. But then I ended up booking a live show at Disneyland in 2005, and I worked at Disney as a live performer in several shows for full time for about a decade, and then I moved to part time, and we moved back here to Ventura County, and I was working part time at Disney and living up here and DJing weddings. And my wife is like was performing since she was 8 years old. She was on Broadway. She toured the world on Broadway, and she's the most talented singer, actress. And she decided 9 years ago to become a cop. And so she ended up becoming a police officer with LAPD. And so, but on her days off, she was still able to sing and do session work and be a Disney princess in commercials as far as her voice goes. And so I was able to see how she was able to keep fulfilled doing what she loved to do, and also have this other totally different job career in which she could help the community and be fulfilled in a completely different way. And so one day we were just sitting around, and she said, "Have you ever thought about being a dispatcher? You'd be a really good dispatcher." And I said, "No, what does a dispatcher do?" So she showed me some YouTube videos of what dispatchers do. And I thought that seems like it would be a really cool job. So I applied and became a dispatcher. And so I I don't work at Disney anymore. They just let me go. I was a part-time employee that just never worked because I was in shows that, but I didn't have any regular days until January 1st of this past year. Obviously, with the pandemic and everything, they cut a lot of fat, and so I was a Disney cast member for about 16 years, and I've just in so many different things in my life led me to this position that I'm in now. I got hired as a community affairs manager here at the end of 2019. So I'm kind of still brand new at it. And if you take the pandemic out of it, I'm still really, really new. But I feel like every weird step in my life led me directly to where I am now, and I'm enjoying it. I've never had a job or been in a position where I feel like so many of my skills are utilized for good and in a great way that helps not only the police department but the community. And I'm just super excited to be here doing this job, and I hope to have this career with Oxnard PD for a really, really long time.
Now, is there any stories you can share as your time as a Disney cast member? Because everybody always hears the horror stories. The street performers, they can't take off their mask. They can't break character. Is that really the type of deal that it is at Disneyland?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to be a union actor, so I didn't. I was fortunate that I didn't have to put up with a lot of the really rigorous things that the characters do there, as far as like really strict rules go. But yeah, just so many times making magic. Like I can't tell you how I did so many different roles there over my 16 years, and my position, I was never anybody you'd recognize from a movie. Like I was never Aladdin or this or that. I was always just a different type of performer in a show, like a storyteller or a pirate. And I was the sheriff of Frontierland, and I was the ugliest girl in Frontierland, and Green Army Man, and just this crazy. I was a DJ for the Phineas and Ferb rock and roll and dance party. But the things that stand out to me from working there are just the amazing people that got to meet and work with. I got a ton of crazy stories. It just depends on what you would want to hear. But one of the coolest things to me was it was around the time when Pirates of the Caribbean, the second and third movies came out. They really upped the pirate presence in the park. And I was this wandering pirate. I would do days where I sang with a pirate band, or I would just be on Tom Sawyer Island and interact with people. And I did that for a number of years. And there was a woman who took a picture with me in the park when she was pregnant, and then she came back on her child's first birthday, and I was there, and she took a picture with me. And then on the second birthday, I was there, and she took a picture with me. And on her third birthday, so just being like this magical part of someone else's life, and I don't know where they live or who they're showing those pictures to, but there's just so many stories about Disneyland being a really special place for people, and to be able to make memories with people that with it's unlike any other job in a lot of ways, in that people just show up expecting like the best day of their life, and a lot of times they have it. You can't, like, the pressure is crazy to just like provide that to guests day in and day out. But and being part of the team that makes it happen is just super special. I got to do a bunch of make a wish events where with terminally ill children, and you're just making their dreams come true and seeing the smiles on their faces. um, one thing I'll never forget is I got to do the countdown show, the New Year's Eve countdown show. And they had a stage set up in front of the castle, and just from the castle to the train station was just people. And we got to count down to New Year's and just hear all of the voices all the way down Main Street count down with you. Just so many great memories there.
Now, as a performer, you come with multiple talents as a performer from your background. during the Disney thing, were you ever part of the street show parades that they would do, all of the dancers that would be performing, or were you more just the one that wandered around the park?
I I was never in a parade. I did a pre-parade for one of the parades in California Adventure, where I was a Green Army man, and I would come along before the parade started and tell people what they're in for and get them warmed up and hyped up. But no, it was more stuff like my first gig when I hired in there was I was the storyteller in a little show in a venue called Aladdin's Oasis. It's between the Tiki Room and Jungle Cruise. And Aladdin and Jasmine would be there, and I would tell the story. So I'd come out and Salam, welcome to Agrabah. We are going to take a journey today. And I would play all the characters. Aladdin and Jasmine would come out. I'd be the genie, and I'd be this, and I'd be that, and tell the stories. We'd bring kids up. And so after the show, the kids would be able to take pictures with Aladdin and Jasmine. So stuff like that. And like in the Golden Horseshoe Saloon in Frontierland, there's a comedy show where, like I mentioned, I was a sheriff, and just different, like in California Adventure, Green Army Men again, the Phineas and Ferb dance party. I would do entertainment stuff in restaurants, like there's an Princess Ariel restaurant. I would come out and introduce the princesses as they arrived in my big regal voice and sing a song. But so never in a parade, but did a lot of different entertainment offerings within the parks.
Just those voices that you just did, that's pretty amazing.
Thanks.
Okay, so fast forward now, you and your wife, she's an LAPD officer. She's doing her passion on the weekends, or when she has opportunities. Introduces you to dispatch. And for our viewers, if you remember, Paul and Dispatch was a little short videos that used to come out on Instagram, and they would be safety tips or tips to keep yourself, your community safe and protect you from break-ins and stuff like that. How was that like to be able to ultimately write, produce these videos, post them, and then have the city just share them all over the place?
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, something I love so much about this police department is that they give so many different OPD family members a voice. And I remember my first dispatch job was with a different agency here in the county, and I went through their training program, and they let me go. And then Oxnard just really opened their arms and welcomed me, and I've never felt so much like family. Even working for Disney, I didn't feel like working for Oxnard PD. They just they wanted to use whatever skills I had, and I offered it up pretty quick as soon as I got hired in. I just said, hey, I've got all these skills, and even though I'm working in dispatch, if there's anything I can do for you film production wise, or if you need a personality to get some message out there. I'm generally a very calm, low key guy if I'm just in a room with you. But if you turn a camera on, I can turn it on and say, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to, and just flip it on. And it's something I've done for almost 20 years now. But yeah, Melissa Valdez was the community affairs manager when I hired in, and she said, I think I made one of the videos and I sent it to her, and I said, is this something you might want to share? And she said, yeah, let me just run it by the chiefs. And they said, cool, yeah, it's good. And then I said, could we do this like on a regular basis? Because there are so many things, so many messages from dispatch that people don't get to hear. And we are or dispatchers are the ones that answer the phone. They are the literal connection to anyone who needs help on a day-to-day basis, hundreds and hundreds of phone calls. So whenever there was information that we wanted to get out there, I just kind of made the video and sent it up to Melissa, and she would push it out on social media. And so having the freedom to do that, and then Dispatch wanted to start their own Instagram, and so they asked me to run it, and I'd been working there for like 4 months, and it was just a crazy thing where it's like the police department with any career like this, usually oh no, newbie, you got to do your time first, you're so new, be here at least a year, then start asking stuff like this. But no, Oxnard PD was just like, yeah, this is great, we'll use it. and gave me like the dispatcher Instagram, and I was still in training, and um, just the trust they had in me to be able to reach out and share this information with the city of Oxnard was so great immediately right off the bat, even from dispatch.
That's awesome. I remember I used to see those videos and I thought like, oh, now the department is hiring actors to do these things. But it was always good information though that was coming out. But I was like, okay, OPD stepping it up, putting those safety messages out until I later on I found out that no, he was actually a real dispatcher.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, so two questions, and I'll start off with the easier one.
Okay.
Do your kids ever like ask you to do a particular voice? Because obviously it sounds like you have a large repertoire of voices that you can do. And then second part of that, does your wife ever get annoyed that you like maybe throw a voice out there and she's not expecting it?
No, my wife does not. She does not find humor, or she does not appreciate any of my performing at home. Uh, and we laugh because people say, you. My wife has such a beautiful voice. People say you're so lucky just like to have that at home. And I'm like, it's not like we walk around the house performing for each other. Like I hear her when I go to a gig and she's singing, but she's not just singing in the kitchen making dinner. But no, my kids, they love to play just like any kids. I have a 3-year old and a 6-year old, and I've had them on camera just doing crazy stuff ever since they were born. And I don't know if you ran across this when you were doing all your Googling before, digging up everything, all the dirt on me. But my daughter actually is is an actress now too. She's 6 years old, and she's been working full time for like 2 years now since before COVID, and her first movie just came out on Netflix. She's in a movie called Yes Day, and she plays the youngest daughter of Jennifer Garner in a big family romp. It was number 10, it was like number one in the world for 10 days the past couple of weeks. So very exciting stuff. But I don't think anyone here at the house is entertained by me or particularly um, wants me to do any sort of performing around the house. It's usually just, Dad, no one needs a snack. It's not really too exciting.
So, okay, well, I guess that's good to know that your wife isn't having animals come through the windows as she's cooking dinner or something.
No, yes. Uh, but it's just funny. A lot of people think, yeah, you guys must just, it must be a house full of performing. And no, when we're home, we're just home. We're not out working, but we have fun.
Right on. Now, the next question that I have is because based off of your background, to go into dispatch, which is a very serious position. It's the difference between life and death in certain situations. How was that for you to go from being an employee at Disney, you're acting, and then going into a profession that is extremely serious?
It was a big adjustment. It was a lot of dispatchers, you'll hear they went to school for criminal justice, or they used to work for a department somewhere else and got a bunch of experience. And so just coming off of working for Disney my whole professional career into sitting in a dispatch center, it was a huge adjustment. And um yeah, it's a really difficult job. It's not for just anyone to do. And you have to be able to keep calm under pressure. You have to um be able to multitask like crazy. You're typing one thing while you're saying another thing, and you're hitting buttons on the radio to get something else going, all while somebody's screaming in your ear. Um, and it takes a lot of training. Like I mentioned, I started at one uh, department in the county, and I trained there for 6 or 7 months before I came to Oxnard, and their training program's a year long. So I did the job for almost 2 years before I even was on my own without a trainer. And it's all paid training, which is great, but if there's anybody who's thinking about doing it, I would say, don't be afraid to try it. Nobody's going to let you fall flat on your face in your training, but you got to know what you're getting into. And you hear a lot of terrible stuff on the phone, whether it's somebody who's just angry at you or somebody who's watching something terrible happen. And I think that one of the skills that I brought into it from my previous career that was I found very helpful was the ability to just focus on what needed to get done and stay cool under pressure. I have a big background in improv comedy, and I did that for obviously a number of years as just a wandering performer for Disney, and just being able to know exactly what you need to get done while there's a crap storm around you, and just being able to focus, take a deep breath, and get the job done. And that's you can't. I mean, there's just a lot of times, like you said, there's no time, there's no room for panicking or for letting the situation overcome you. You just got to take a deep breath and stay focused on what the end goal is.
Wow. Uh, Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Oxnard Police Department Community Affairs Manager Paul Carganilla. We're speaking with him about his background and then transitioning into dispatch and then entering community affairs position. Because this is all live and Oxnard Live is very interactive with our viewers, I just want to read a couple of comments that came in from Manuel Herrera. If Paul becomes famous with his acting, will he leave Oxnard Police Department? He hopes not.
Yeah, no, I don't do much acting anymore. If I do any acting, it's usually just a hobby, just a project. But I'm, like I said earlier, just so happy to be in the position where I am. It's literally a dream come true that I never knew would be a dream in my life. But I'm hanging on to this job as long as they'll have me here. And any performing or any of that kind of stuff can be my hobby on the weekends.
We also have Edith Irene. She says, awesome, great stories. Marquez Elena Georgia. She said, what is your favorite character? I'm assuming maybe a character that you played.
Um, Well, if it is Disney related, I'll say my favorite Disney character from a movie is probably the genie from Aladdin or Quasimodo from Hunchback. Those are movies that came out when I was younger, and just I was there's a soft spot in my heart for them. But in the parks, I would say probably my favorite character to play was the pirate that I would play. Um, I played him for 4 or 5 years, just walking around the park like full time, and then I just would show up. I was still a sub, and I would still show up for over a decade with this guy. I kind of got to know him and created the character. His name was Faruco. He was from Spain. He was not a very good pirate. He got seasick lots of times, and he was cursed by an evil which he could not steal. So I would just do crazy things around Disneyland. I would try to sell people strollers while they were on a ride. I would carry around. I had a hook. I went to Salvation Army and got a bunch of purses, and I was just walking around Disneyland with a hook with a bunch of purses on it, just watching women walk by with their purses and watch them clutch it closer to them. And just it was so much fun. Just playing a pirate in Disneyland and getting paid for it. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Then we also have Sean Lawrence. He says he is an amazing guy. City of Oxnard is lucky to have him.
Oh, thanks,
Um,
Sean.
it's great stories. Sorry. Now, fast forward, the community affairs position comes open. Melissa Valdez, she ends up leaving our city. Unfortunately, she was a great person to have. Were you approached for this position, or was it a traditional apply and interview?
A little bit of both. I was fortunate enough to, like I said, they were so amazing at Oxnard in giving me the freedom to help, even though I was so new. And so I ended up I think the first video I made was the fireworks video where I said, don't call 911 for fireworks. And then after that, I was kind of shoulder tapped to help with when that crazy lip sync craze was happening across the world. Melissa hit me up and she said, "Hey, could you help us make the lip sync video?" So I was able to direct and film and edit our Oxnard PD lip sync video while I was working in dispatch on my days off, of course. And then I was called, former Chief Whitney called when we had that officer involved shooting 2 Mays ago over there at Rose and Camino del Sol. And they asked me to put together a video for the public, basically a public statement about what happened, and to show video and have Chief Whitney talk about it and play the dispatch tape. And so I was able to come in and produce. I came in on my vacation to produce that for the department. And doing those things just really, I guess, got my foot in the door, even though I wasn't trying to. I was just trying to use my skills for the betterment of the city and the department. But when Melissa decided to move on in her career, I was shoulder tapped. I was asked to do her job while they found a replacement for her. And so I was happy to do that. So I was the interim community affairs manager as soon as Melissa left. And my first day was the Spooktacular event that year. That was 2019. And then I helped organize the Christmas event while I was still interim. And then at the end of December, right at the end of the year in 2019, they had the interviews. So they interviewed, it was obviously an open position. So they interviewed a number of candidates, including me. And I was very fortunate in that I was the one that they chose to be the new permanent.
Awesome. Now, as the community affairs manager, you actually brought back something that used to be a regular thing, straight to you, which was an opportunity for information to get out to the public from that time's community affairs manager. So how was that? Because again, that was kind of an old idea, but you kind of put a twist on it for yourself.
Well, I can't take complete credit for bringing it back. Former Chief Whitney really wanted to bring Straight to You back and call it Straight to You and use the old music and stuff. So that was a lot of that was his idea. But I had the absolute pleasure of meeting and getting to know David Keith, who was the community affairs manager for 20 some years and left the department. Oh gosh, how long ago? Maybe 15 years ago now. And so he left, and then there was, a couple others did it for a little while, and then Miguel, and then Melissa. But David has been such an amazing asset and blessing, really, in that he met with me early on when I was the interim, and we sat down for coffee and we just talked for hours about the job and what he did when he was in the position. And he has become like a mentor to me and meets with me all the time. We just talk, we say, hey, he asks me how he can help, and he's just incredible. If you're out there watching, David, thank you so much. But he started Straight to You. He was really a pioneer of what social media is doing. So this was like, 25, 30 years ago. He would take a video camera out to the scene somewhere and shoot a quick video, 2 minutes, about what's going on, and then get back to the station. He had a friend who would edit it, and then they would release it on YouTube before the end of the day. And that way he had his own voice. The news didn't have to put their own spin on it. It was coming straight from the police department, straight to whoever was watching. And there was no other public agency doing that at that time. And he really just was one of the trailblazers for this type of getting the message out straight from you, so no one else can tweak it on the way. But it was iconic. If anybody, any old Oxnard residents remember those videos and remember that music, it was iconic. And bringing it back was a lot of fun. And of course, with Chief Whitney wanting to make so many videos and just bring our messages straight to the public. He said, let's bring straight to you back and make it our brand new renovated 2020 version of it. And so it's been a lot of fun to keep going.
Awesome. Now, you've been having interviews with officers from the department live on Zoom, very similar to what we're doing, um, which I think is a great opportunity for the public to get to know their law enforcement. Um, whose idea was to spotlight an officer like every other day or every day and give their quick little bio? Was that something that you brought on, or was that something already in the works that just kind of happened?
It was something that they've been talking about doing at the department before I came into this position, and just never got the ball rolling. That and the Throwback Thursdays they had been wanting to do for a really long time, but then it just kind of got swept under the rug for a little bit, and then we started to see, we of course follow our friends and neighbors, all our fellow county police departments, and any of the bigger ones, and we just keep an eye out on their social media as well. And we saw, a bunch of other departments started doing these behind the badges or these police officer spotlights, and we said, okay, yeah, well, now's the time, let's get it going. So yeah, every Sunday we put out a little bio about one of our employees, whether it's an officer or a civilian or a commander or assistant chief. But yes, it's been super cool. And one of the things that is my favorite thing to do is just to humanize the officers, because being married to a police officer, I see what kind of experiences they have and they bring home, and it's easy to forget that police officers are just humans with a family that want to go home at the end of the day and relax. And so any opportunity that I'm able to help remind the public of that, I'll just jump on. So the Sunday Spotlight's a great way. The Q&A, the live Q&As are, I think, a really great way, especially these days with COVID and having to, be virtual, do so much stuff virtually. Yeah, and if anybody out there has an idea of how we can help the community just feel more familiar with your police officers in the city, I'm happy to hear it.
Now, let me ask you about that because as we saw, 2020 was during very difficult times, not only with the pandemic, but tensions with law enforcement. And your wife being in law enforcement, how was that for you? That to kind of be on the side and watch her, and how was that experience for you in general?
It was tough, because with the riots and everything, she was mobilized. So right now she's in a really great spot for her, and she's in recruitment, and she helps mentor recruits through the hiring process. So she's not in patrol anymore. But when the riots started, they took everyone and put them back out on the streets. And so it had been several since before my daughter was born, since she was in a police unit on the streets. But so that part of it was tough. They were all working 12-hour days with no days off for a good 3 week span. And that part of it was tough, but really the toughest part was seeing, with the social unrest and everything going on across the country, and everybody having these immense feelings, seeing on Facebook so many friends and family members that are just so close, just with all of the negativity toward police, and having to remind people, hey, like, my, my wife is an officer and she's not like that. And then the response you get is, well, yeah, your wife's not like that, but most officers are. And it's just like, no, no, they aren't. Like, obviously, yes, everything that was said a million times last year, there are bad officers, but there are good ones, and hopefully the good ones outnumber the bad ones, and they're just people too, doing their job. And um yeah, so I think the toughest part was just seeing how angry people got just at the badge, just at the police, and not taking into account that these are all different human beings doing the job across the entire country, and you can't just lump everybody together and say all police are bad, because obviously there's been some really horrible ones that have done some really horrible things, but that doesn't mean you just throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, completely agree with that. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, again, this is Oxnard Police Department Community Affairs Manager Paul. And I'm not laughing at the situation. I just thought about something that, and I want everybody to go on YouTube and look for this, because this is actually, and I talked to Paul about this before, but um, there is a song that Paul is singing, and it is one of the most important condiments in any culture. It's called hot sauce,
It's
or
called,
tell me the exact title.
can I tell you the story about it too? It's called the hot sauce song. And a friend of mine, Dan Franklin, he's an incredible singer songwriter, and I helped him make a documentary where he was writing an album. So he did a Kickstarter. I don't know if you're familiar. It's a crowdfunding thing, and if certain people donate certain amount of money to the project, there's different reward tiers, and you get a T-shirt and this and that, and you get this. But for this, I was actually making the documentary of him making an album. And then we kind of jokingly said, if we raise this amount of money, we'll make a music video about hot sauce, because everybody knows like how like I put hot sauce on everything. I love hot sauce so much. And it goes on pretty much every meal for me. And so it started out as a joke, just like we're gonna write a song and make a music video about hot sauce. And so we hit that goal financially, and so we had to do it. So we put together a music video about hot sauce, and now that's something a lot of people enjoy on the YouTubes.
I have to admit that, like it was already mentioned, I Googled you prior to our interview tonight, and so many pages kept coming up, and then there was this YouTube video, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's just something that he was part of, in the background or something. Because if you Google search yourself, sometimes you may come up and you're not directly result to that. But then I started watching it, and I'm like, oh no, this is full on Paul. I was like, okay. I'm like, it
Here's me,
resonates with
and
a lot of people.
yeah, yeah, and that's good. And we just like it was so many. We lucked out in so many ways. Like that, the weekend we were shooting that just happened to be the Hot Sauce Festival in downtown LA. So we went down and just filmed all rogue there. And we had like a house part. A friend of ours hosted a house party where friends came over and just were in the video dancing, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, go to YouTube, look for this. You will not be disappointed. Trust me. Paul, thank you again for joining me. Is there any final words you want to share with our viewers tonight?
Um, I just to remind everybody that the police department, and like we value the community so much, and any community feedback and any ways that we can partner with community groups, or um, any events that are happening, let me know. My email is my name. It's paul.carganilla@oxnardpd.org. We'd love to be there if we can. We'd love to support any way that we can. Today's obviously April 1st. We're starting next week on Monday. We're starting our autism acceptance campaign, where we're selling our autism patches and T-shirts, and all 100% of the money goes to the Autism Society throughout the month of April. But anything like that, where we can help the community, and just show that we're in this together. We're not a separate entity from the city of Oxnard. We want to like just show that we're just as much a part of the family of Oxnard as any family in Oxnard. And the police department is here for you. And let me know if there's anything that I can do to help bring the police department into any neighborhood events or anything that you guys have got going on.
Thank you, Paul. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Oxnard Police Department Community Affairs Manager, Paul Carganelli. This is Oxnard Live, all live and 100% real. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye, everyone.